shout out from our Canadian friends?
First, they left the family business. Then there was the Oprah interview, the 6-hour Netflix documentary, and now this.
Whatever you think, whatever's gone before, this book takes things to a whole new level because it's a complete account of your life. However, I think I do have to start with a simple question, which is, why? Why have you written it?
Felt like a good time to own my story and be able to tell it for myself.
3 TV interviews with one more to come to launch Prince Harry's tell-all book. A concerted effort by the Duke, he says, to change 2 things. First, the British press, and second, the way the royals, in his words, get into bed with the devil when they work with them.
The level of planting and leaking from other members of the family means that, in my mind, they have written countless books. Certainly millions of words have been dedicated to trying to trash my wife and myself to the point of where I had to leave my country.
Take this weekend's papers, countless stories, all from royal sources, because officially there's still no comment from Buckingham or Kensington Palace. And yet those same sources, Harry contends, never defend his wife, Meghan, most recently after Jeremy Clarkson's article in The Sun.
Did that surprise you?
Did it surprise me? No. Is it shocking? Yes. I mean, thank you for proving our point.
Has there been any response from the palace?
No, and that comes a point when silence is betrayal.
I absolutely agree with Prince Harry that the level of collusion between the royal family and the press is problematic.
Why does it exist like that?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it was much better, actually, when the royal family didn't engage with the press so much and there was a far greater level of mystique.
But can the system ever change?
I think that's incredibly unlikely. I think that's some sort of utopian ideal. It would be wonderful. And one thing I absolutely know is that nobody briefs on behalf of the royal household without a nod confirming yes, go ahead from very high up within the hierarchy.
Harry says those nods come from his father, who he says was never quite ready for parenthood, as well as his temperamental brother and his, quote, dangerous stepmother.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous?
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. And there was open willingness on both sides to trade of information.
Harry argues this palace-press relationship creates a false reality, that there was never a Fab Four. Kate and William never warmed to Meghan, and that he and his brother were never that close, growing apart ever since their mother's death.
Do you speak to William now? Do you text?
Currently, no. But I look forward to us being able to find peace.
How long has it been since you spoke?
A while.
Do you speak to your dad?
We haven't spoken for quite a while. No, not recently.
Harry says there are 2 sides to all of this, but critics argue this is now a relentless one-way barrage from someone unwilling to move on.
You get a chance to tell your story now. Your brother may never have that chance. Are you sympathetic to that?
Yes, 100%. This book is not about the relationship between me and William. This book is about my life.
And what about the Oprah interview and this claim from Meghan about their son?
Concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Harry now says that wasn't about racism, but unconscious bias. But why let it simmer for so long without clarification? Harry's book is ultimately personal and specific, but it's also about not wanting his story repeated. No more royal spares left without a cause or support. Is that the bigger question here? King Charles wants a slimmed-down monarchy, so under his reign and William's, what next for the likes of Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis?
Charles and William will be watching very carefully what happens to Harry, because it does raise the question, is it better to keep the close members of the royal family within the royal fold, or do you let them go? It's such a difficult decision, isn't it? Because they're never really free. They're always going to be royal.
As Harry says he's moving on, can a modern monarchy emerge under King Charles? Or is he happy to remain firm, arguing this is a mere tabloid blip for an institution that's seen far bigger crises in its long history?
Well, a poll carried out in the last few days shows Harry's popularity has dropped to an all-time low. The YouGov survey says almost 2/3 of people in the UK have a negative view of him. But what about the future of the royal family as a whole? Joining me now are Dr. Tessa Dunlop, historian and author of Elizabeth and Philip, and Kehinde Andrews, Professor of Black Studies at Birmingham City University, who also featured in the Netflix documentary Harry and Meghan. So, is he taking the rest of them down with him?
Hopefully. I think what this shows is once you pull back the curtain, the royal families are Kardashians with crowns. It's this mundane, posh family, and why on earth in the 21st century are we even entertaining any of this nonsense?
Well, it does keep people entertained, doesn't it?
I think it does more than that. I mean, we've established that he is, in terms of his anti-monarchy beliefs, A for atheist, and I'm B for believer, but believer light. I realise, and I think I've realised ever since the Oprah interview, when suddenly the monarchy appeared imperilled once again, there was a blip, you'll remember, how could we forget, in the 90s, that actually, when you think something might be imperilled, you then appreciate the value of it. And I like the separation of ceremonial from political. I don't want the likes of Boris Johnson in a golden carriage.
But does the ceremonial have any credibility when Harry has said it was all a sham? I wasn't really the best man, he wasn't, all that kind of stuff?
Therein lies the problem. It becomes jaundiced, and I think it's deeper than that. It's more worrying than that. It's the way in which we've been cleaved into different camps. The Conservative press have parked their tanks on the lawn of Prince Charles, or King Charles rather, sorry now, whether he likes it or not. So suddenly a guy who's probably underneath it all a bit woolly and liberal, appears sort of quite hard right because of the cloak that he's been wrapped in. And on the other hand, sort of younger people, I suppose.
Younger,
mainly black, young, I don't know who the supporters of Harry and Meghan, global, are parked on the other side of the lawn.
I mean, so what if they are just posh Kardashians? I mean, they have a constitutional role, which they can continue to perform. Most people don't want more politicians. So, to what's wrong with them being a soap opera?
This is the thing, you can't separate the ceremony from the Constitution. Our head of state is Charles and is going to be William, and you have to wonder why. What do they represent? The whiteness of the royal family isn't accidental, it's on purpose. That's why Meghan was such an addition to it. That's why they're having all these issues of institutional racism or unconscious bias.
But what do you make of his unconscious bias distinction? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, do you understand what he means?
I understand what he means, but he's entirely wrong, right? You cannot separate unconscious bias from racism. Unconscious bias comes out of racism. So because you're in this institution where these things are fine, you're going to go and attack a black woman and ask her where she's from and harass her because that's the culture of the institution. So you can't separate these things.
Do you understand what he means by this? I'm not a racist, but I did have unconscious bias.
I think I watched him fall into that rabbit hole last night, and I had my heart in my hands. I mean, it was just stay away, Harry. You're a white prince. Just back off. But I remember Virginia Woolf wrote that we have this insatiable desire to watch the royal family because they live and we live in them. And actually, there is something about this white British family going through the narrative of a black woman marrying into their family, and in them we live. I'm married to an immigrant. I've had, not similar because he's white, he's Romanian, but also difficult conversations around culture. I think huge numbers of Brits now have had conversations, and again, we're living through them. We've had sibling arguments, and so there is an aspect where, and we feel their pain, bereavement. I thought that a large part of last night's documentary was about pain and Harry's pain at losing his mother.
So then put cameras in the palace, make Real Housewives of Windsor, let's make them celebrities. They shouldn't be paid for by taxpayers' money, and they shouldn't have a constitutional role. The emperor has no clothes. This credit Harry for showing how mundane and banal this whole thing is.
They'll look at those opinion polls and they'll think this has gone really badly for Harry and Meghan, and the royal family's going to be okay.
They're wrong. They're wrong. The danger is that our royal family serves us not just at home but abroad. He's king, by the way, in 15 realms, 14 other ones. How's this going down there? He's head of the Commonwealth. And so the problem is, yeah, maybe they've shored up a right conservative support, which is always there for them anyway. But actually, as a weapon for us overseas, soft power, we're damaged.
Literally, let's just go back to the emperor. We have the empire, weapons overseas, these 15 who should not possibly have the queen and the king of the head of state.
That's their decision,
this will accelerate moves towards republics
certainly. I think if you look
Commonwealth,
if you look at what's happened,
Caribbean, Australia,
Yeah, I think the death of the Queen certainly. I think if you look at all this drama, if you look at just how out of touch William and Kate are, I think if you look in the Caribbean, if you look at places like that, they are saying, why on earth would these represent us? And they don't. And I think it's right. The Commonwealth should have gone a long time ago. That's just the form of.
Well, I disagree there. I think people conflating the Empire of the Commonwealth, understandably, because one handed to the other, but it is a voluntary collection of countries. It's away from the hoof of America. It's somewhere where we could have soft power and influence. It is a talking shop, and one that. Britain, we're in Britain.
I live in Britain.
I know.
I would say I speak for millions of people in this country, particularly black and brown people, who that family represents nothing but racism.
But what about
should have been gone a long time.
And
Commonwealth the same.
A way in which of having connection with countries that are otherwise disparate, something that isn't NATO or the UN with America at the helm.
It's the British Empire. Why would that be better than
not
NATO?
the British
Of course
Empire.
it is. What was it? It came out of the British Empire. It is a relic of empire.
I mean, as a monarchist light, they can survive this without addressing it?
No, they need to address it.
They need to come out and say something, do an interview. I mean, what do they do?
The olden days, it was stumm. You know, don't say anything. Whether it was Crawfie the nanny, she was, persona non grata for the rest of her life, or indeed the Duke of Windsor. But I think now you can't look that unfeeling, especially not because they need to hook in younger generations eventually. When these younger generations grow up, I think they're going to have to invite to the coronation. I think there will have to be some sort of sop. Harry gave it to them on a plate last night. Some little job that he could do for Charles in ideally overseas, because we need to keep him away from the conservative press. Harry's got a real allergy. I mean, he comes out in hives around our tabloid press. But it doesn't work, that.
I hope they do, because this is the unraveling, right?
What, you hope they do implode?
Yeah, because the royal family is this fairy tale narrative, and that's why they're so controlled with the media. But now you see Netflix, Spotify, social media, it's impossible to control it. The best thing they could do is engage, and that will pull all the threads out.
But is it so wrong to have someone we want to wave out on a balcony? You know, after the First World War, when it was the Paris Peace Conference in France, the Brits were going around, there's no heart to the celebrations, there's no one to wave a flag at. They do actually serve a ceremonial role, something that lifts the nation, albeit maybe 50%.
Which part of the nation? I mean, this...
No, come on, that's disingenuous. They poll well, the royal family.
Great fun, though, this is. I'm going to have to intrude. Thank you very much indeed. Tessa Dunlop and Gavin Andrews, thanks very much for your time.